Okay, so this is on next episode of True Wrestling Fans Discussions. This is another retro pay-per-view review. This is Wrestlemania 8. I'm your host, Mike.
And I'm Frank, and let's just jump right into
All
it.
right.
WrestleMania 8 to me was one. I like this one because the Indianapolis Hoosier Dome was it was like it was built for a WrestleMania. The place is just huge. April 5th, 1992, 62,167 fans saw an amazing event. They had several more celebrities at this time were in this one. Reba McEntire sung the national anthem. Of course, Bobby Heenan makes the comment, he thinks he's Tito's sister.
Yeah.
Ariba, that was so funny. You had Ray Combs during the 8-man tag team match for Family Feud. And then they interviewed the likes of Lex Luger for the first time. He showed up, and also the Legion of Doom. And we'll get into their whole thing and their debacle.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll let you know what this card originally was supposed to be. So let's just jump right into it. The opening match was Shawn Michaels versus Tito Santana.
And if you know Tito Santana's in a WrestleMania match,
you know it's going to be a loss.
Yeah.
And especially with the likes of an up-and-coming Shawn Michaels, who is now no longer a member of the Rockers.
That's right. This is his first
They had the split up on the barbershop. He sent Jannetty through the plate glass window. And now he's on his own, managed by Sherry. This match was good. It was. We'll get into it. What it was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be this match. It was supposed to be something else. Shawn Michaels does beat Tito Santana for his seventh straight loss. Sorry, Tito. And it was 10 minutes 38 seconds. This time he came out. He was even re-gimmicked. He was the El Matador.
Yeah,
Tito Santana.
Dun, dun. He modified his finisher. He would hit you on the back.
El Paso de Morte.
Yeah.
Or like Bobby Heenan would say, the flying jalapeno.
Right. Yeah. Santana.
Santana. And Ariba McEntire.
Yeah.
I tell you, I love Bobby Heenan.
No, Bobby was the best.
Bobby was
Ventura was good too.
Yes, he was. You remember, I didn't mention this in WrestleMania 6, but you remember when he was facing the Barbarian and he said, why don't Tito give Barbarian some of Chico's food? He'll have to quit 2 minutes into the match.
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's great.
He said, we can call it Chico's Revenge.
Yeah. Yeah, he has some great lines.
Oh, yes, he did. But in any event, Shawn Michaels, his first singles pay-per-view match, he comes out successful, one of many to come. It was a great opening match, considering it wasn't what it was supposed to be. We'll get into that later. But for these two, he pulled it off. It was a pretty good match.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was pretty good.
Our next match was kind of like a vendetta to settle the score here. It was the newly baby-faced Undertaker versus Jake the Snake Roberts. And I still have a hard time saying that, considering what he was like in his first year there. At this point now, the Undertaker is a former WWE champion.
Yeah.
And he's facing his former, I guess, tag team partner, you can call him.
Friend, whatever. Yeah.
Friend, former, and now enemy.
Yeah.
6 minutes, 36 seconds. It was a pretty decent match. If you remember what led up to this, it all started with, what was it? The Undertaker saving.
Yeah.
Randy Savage and Elizabeth were coming back from a match on the Superstars. Jake Roberts was standing there behind the screen, said, I don't care who's coming through, I'm going to hit one of them with a chair. And just as they come through and they duck out of the way, the Undertaker is holding the chair.
Right.
And I still couldn't realize this even as a kid. Like, wait a minute, the dead man is going to be a fan favorite? I'm like, I can't believe this.
It worked, but
it did.
But turning him that way didn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, considering he made Savage and Elizabeth's life a living hell for months.
The stuff that they had done together already.
Yeah,
doesn't.
I don't know. And then the funeral parlor, if you remember, Jake Roberts was on there, and the Undertaker. He closed the casket.
Yeah.
On the Undertaker's hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe he had DDT'd Paul Bearer. Right after he did that, and the Undertaker, who back then showed no expression on his face when he's getting his butt kicked, has his hand being crushed, and he's still moving around.
Yeah,
trying to get to Paul Bearer, trying to get to Jake Roberts. Didn't know who to get to first.
That was the no sell Undertaker back then. No sell. You wouldn't sell anything. Yeah.
And I actually liked it because
it was cool. It was different.
The man can't be hurt.
Yeah.
Until Mr. Politics gets in there with him.
Yeah.
And then, so anyway, Jake Roberts DDTs him on the outside.
And that was another thing, which I felt, and that was Jake that did that, right? Jake didn't let him tombstone him inside the ring.
No, it was done on the outside.
That's why he tombstone. I guess he was scared he was going to hurt him, maybe. I don't know. And he wanted to get tombstone on the padding. I felt, I didn't like that. Took away from the match, I felt. Maybe not the biggest thing, but that was Jake.
No, but yeah, because his signature was, it was done in the middle of the ring, and then he would crush your hands.
And Jake was already he was on his way out. He was having a lot of problems with the office.
Yeah, I believe this was his last match.
Yeah,
if not, just a couple of house shows.
It was. Yeah, he was already having problems. I think that at some point they didn't even know if he was going to show up.
Yeah, because this was at the point where he was totally unstable.
Right, yeah.
Because, if everybody remembers, or if they don't, just a quick thing, after this, he had gone to WCW, literally for a minute. I mean, he fought Sting at Halloween Havoc in a spin the wheel, make the deal match. It turned out to be a coal miner's glove match. Sting gets the win. And I believe he had the snake at that time there. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the snake had bit him in the face.
Oh, I don't remember. Yeah.
And I believe, I remember seeing that because around 1992, I was really watching the clashes and getting the updates on it because for some reason, 1992 was really a good year to me in WCW, Dangerous Alliance and everything. And I remember seeing that and I'm like, well, he finally got his just dessert, but considering what he did to Savage with the snake a year prior. But in any event, this was Roberts' farewell. The Undertaker is now 2-0 at WrestleMania. And for everybody that's an Undertaker fan, we're in for a long ride with those wins. But in any event, it led us to, I believe, is one of the greatest Intercontinental title matches in history, if not the best. And this was Roddy Piper defending the Intercontinental Championship against Bret the Hitman Hart. Now, the backstory on this one is I had covered this once before. Bret had 103 fever 2 days prior to the Rumble where he fought the Mountie in a house show. The Mountie got over on him winning the Intercontinental Championship. Roddy Piper goes to the Royal Rumble, wins the Intercontinental Championship, subbing for Bret Hart. Remember, he also almost won the Rumble. So he granted Bret Hart the rematch for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. And to me, this is the one year Piper looked extremely good. Great shape, great matches. He just had it all that year.
Yeah.
At least in the beginning of the year. And if you remember, the beginning of that year, it was their most stacked lineup of a roster.
Forget it. That roster was incredible.
It was completely stacked from there. And then 6 months later, I don't know what happened. But in any event, Piper was on his top of his game. Bret Hart, I thought Bret Hart was kind of coming off as the heel in this one because the fans were leaning more towards Piper in the beginning of this because Bret was just coming off like the egotistical guy, just has his eyes set on winning the title back. I don't care who's in my way. I don't care if you're a friend of me or not. I'm going through you to get what's rightfully mine. But at the end, the fans gave him the accolades they both deserved. Bret Hart beat Roddy Piper. If you remember, he had the sleeper hold on him.
Right.
And he got his feet up on the turnbuckle and kind of flipped it back to where he was able to pin him. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was cool. Something we really hadn't seen to that point.
Yeah. And they hugged it out at the end. And that was also Piper's farewell, too, because he wasn't doing much wrestling after that. And Bret Hart could go on as being the two-time Intercontinental Champion. But this is one of the greatest matches I've seen.
Yeah, hands down. Great story, and then great in-ring work, too.
From both of them, yes.
Yeah.
Despite Piper's little sucker punch that Bret Hart had to gash, he was all blood up and everything. And I couldn't understand why Vince didn't get onto them about that. But yet, when we get into the match later on with Ric Flair, how he got onto him about him getting cut.
Because the reason was that Bret was so good at cutting himself that they said it was by accident and they couldn't tell, even looking at the video. When Flair cuts himself, they saw blatantly he bladed himself.
Kind of like one of those Shawn Michaels moments where he gets up and goes, oh, yeah, I forgot to do it, and I did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what happened.
And Bret, man, I thought he was going to pass out because he had one of those Steve Austin moments where he was just gushing all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So from there now, we go to I guess, a throw together 8-man tag team match, which I don't understand why they did it. And they spent most of the time with Ray Combs in the ring talking smack to the other team. It was the Big Boss Man, Virgil, Sergeant Slaughter, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus the Nasty Boys, the Repo Man, and the Mountie. And he spent more time talking smack to the Nasty Boys, Mountie, and Repo Man. And when the match finally got on, it was barely a match. It was 6 minutes, 33 seconds. And I got to believe most of that was Ray Combs talking.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I just don't understand why this was. Yeah, it was a waste of eight wrestlers, especially the Mountie coming off an Intercontinental title defense from the Rumble. Slaughter had just turned back fan favorite, was teaming with Duggan, and I mean Boss Man and Virgil. This was like a go nowhere. We'll get you guys on the card, but this is what it's going to be.
That's basically what it was. You're on WrestleMania.
So in any event, Boss Man, Virgil, Slaughter, Duggan, they all get the victory. So now Boss Man is technically 3-0 at WrestleMania. He's got an undefeated streak going. So that doesn't last, trust me. From there, and I don't agree with this. Number one, I don't agree with any WWE Championship match being on mid-card. I always believe that should be your final match of the. I don't care who's on the card. I really don't. I don't care who the champion is. You have Macho Man Randy Savage challenging Ric Flair for the WWE Championship as your 5th match. First half of the double main event, which I'm going to tell you right now, that was no double main event.
No.
That was a main event and an ego event.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because this match deserves so much more than the 5th match on the card.
Well, yeah, I mean, that goes without saying. But remember, again, we'll talk about it maybe a little bit later. It was supposed to be Hogan versus Flair in the main event for the title. And how we got here was Saturday night's main event. Who was it? Ric Flair and The Undertaker versus
Hulk Hogan and Sid Justice.
Sid Justice betrays Hogan, leaves him for dead.
Good.
And so then after that, President Jack Tunney decides, Hogan should fight Sid Justice.
Yeah, because you remember at the press conference, they had The Undertaker, Piper, Savage, Sid Justice, and Hogan, all sitting there waiting to find out who's going to get the number one contendership for Flair's WWE Championship. Remember, Sid Justice stood up because he deemed himself the rightful thing. And to be quite honest, going back to the Rumble for a minute, he really does have an argument because he's the last guy. He's the runner-up in the Royal Rumble because remember he threw out Hulk Hogan. Everybody's booing Hogan. Because now Hogan is playing the kind of heel thing where I'm upset at what you just did to me. He's trying to get Sid out of the ring, assisted by Flair. Sid Justice gets eliminated. Ric Flair wins the match, wins the Rumble, and wins the title. So Sid Justice does have an argument for that. And I got to agree. But he's standing up there, and they announced that it's going to be Hulk Hogan. For whatever reason, they decided to do that. Maybe because it's two icons facing each other, which is fine. And for whatever reason, and we still don't know to this day why the match was canceled and changed, but it was. And we got Hogan and Sid in the main event, and now Randy Savage becomes the number one contender. They
did the whole thing with Elizabeth. She was mine before you.
Before she was yours, and he was supposed to have the big centerfold picture that was supposed to go up.
Yeah, he had the doctor photos of them together. And
because Heenan's looking all up at the top of the Hoosier Dome looking for it, and it's not there.
I love how Randy ran to the ring. Kind of started to jog
because he went
right after. He went right after Flair, yeah.
And this, considering he had knee problems going into the match, because you remember he injured his knee during the match, and it plagued him pretty much throughout 1992. Yeah, where he rolled up Flair. It wasn't even the elbow drop. Mm-hmm. He had it. He was holding his leg, and Flair and Savage was trying to hit him, and finally he was just able to roll him up in a small package. He wins the title, and the Hoosier Dome went nuts. And this was an 18-minute, 4-second match, and it was great because Savage became the 2-time champion without Hulk Hogan. Finally, he's doing it on his own where it should have been all along.
But he did pull the tights.
I don't care.
No, I don't care. I'm just saying. They should have just had him outright beat him. Instead, he rolled him up and he pulled the tights. And Bobby Heenan was going crazy. But it was good for the story, though. When Bobby Heenan was going nuts.
Yeah. Well, you got the dirtiest player in the game, Ric Flair, getting his own medicine against him.
It was good. It was
classic.
Yeah, it worked.
And anytime those two guys got in the ring together, they were good. You know, maybe some of those WCW matches were overwatered and or watered down rather and weak, but I mean, they always would put on a great show. And kudos to Savage for winning the title for the second time. And you know, Hogan's loss is his game.
Yeah.
So, and now from there we go to the debut of the Native American Tatanka, which I love this gimmick, and this guy could wrestle. And you talk about a guy that just never got a title. Period.
He should have been
just wrong.
He should have probably won the IC belt.
Yeah, at least the Intercontinental title the year later when he feuded with Shawn.
Yeah.
But in this case, Tatanka is facing the model Rick Martel, and they had the whole Native American tribe from North Carolina, and of course Bobby Heenan's making fun of him, doing the "Hey, how are you?" You know, that's Bobby for you. Yeah. This was a 4-minute, 33-second match, but the youngster pulled it out. He beat Rick Martel, which started almost a 1.5-year long undefeated streak.
Yep.
And later on, these guys would fight again at the Survivor Series, but I think Martel did good getting him over.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, they worked really well in the ring. You know, Tatanka's timing was there. It was a good match, short, but you know, considering your debut match is at WrestleMania, is saying something. Unfortunately, like we said, there's just nothing that was done with him later on. But this match was good, and you know, hats off to him winning his first WrestleMania match. Now, the next match on the card was the WWE Tag Team Championship. Money Inc., who came out of nowhere 2 months prior to this, Ted DiBiase and IRS came out of nowhere to become a tag team, became the tag team champions, and we'll get to that in a sec. Defending the tag team titles against the newly baby-faced natural disasters of Earthquake and Typhoon. And I always liked them as a tag team, and I especially liked them when they were a fan favorite. Yeah, they were great in the ring. Yeah. And especially putting them two together as a tag team kind of helped them along to where their singles career was stagnant.
Oh, especially Tugboat. Typhoon was a way better gimmick in the tag team.
Tugboat was going nowhere, and Earthquake pretty much after Earthquake's feud with Hogan.
Yeah, it was
which ended pretty much. What was it? Right after the Rumble.
Yeah.
I mean, it was go nowhere with him, and this actually was beneficial to the both of them. And the Natural Disasters do win the match. Unfortunately, it was by count out, but they eventually become the tag team champions anyway. But this was a good match, considering I believe this was kind of like an impromptu match, and you'll get to in a minute what that tag team title match was supposed to be. And now from there we go to the debut of not the Blue Blazer, but the Rocket, Owen Hart. And everybody knows from past episodes, he is my uncrowned champion and one of my personal favorites.
Definitely.
Facing Skinner. A gimmick that this guy on the independent scene was good.
He was a good worker.
But when he comes here, we're going to make him the Alligator Man. Spit and chaw and everything. And he lasted about a year, but there was nothing done with him.
No, absolutely nothing.
Literally.
Yeah.
And this match started with Owen Hart getting in the ring, because you remember with the Royal Rumble, Owen Hart was teaming with Jim the Anvil Neidhart as the new foundation.
Yeah.
That didn't last, so Owen Hart goes into the singles competition briefly before they put him in another tag team with Coco Beware and High Energy, which I thought was a good team, but it just Coco Beware, I think they could have found somebody else.
Yeah.
But if they were looking for like a new Rockers team, those two guys, Owen was but not him.
Right, yeah, I agree.
So Owen jumps in the ring, and Skinner spits his tobacco in his face, and Owen's blinded for a minute, but this was a 36-second match, because Owen rolls him up. Owen Hart gets his first WrestleMania victory. And again, the kid, this was a sign of things to come with Owen. Tremendously talented. And in some aspects, I will even say maybe sometimes he overshined his brother.
Yeah, certain things he did.
Yeah. So Owen Hart gets the win, and that leads us to the second half of Vince McMahon's double main event, not mine. I didn't agree with this being the main event. I say that it should have been Savage and Flair, but for whatever it is what it is. It's Hulk Hogan versus the newly healed, pissed off Sid Justice.
Right, and they were marketing this as Hulk Hogan's final match.
Farewell. Yes.
Farewell match. And,
they even showed the interview with Vince McMahon. Yeah, go ahead.
The steroid thing was on its way, and Hogan was trying to
he was packing his bags and getting the hell out of there.
Right, getting the hell out of Dodge.
Literally, yes.
So we got what we got.
Well, the match itself wasn't bad. I mean,
it was okay. It was all right. It wasn't.
It wasn't the best of Hogan's matches. It was 12 minutes, 28 seconds. Hulk Hogan wins by disqualification. But the funny thing with this disqualification was how they said that Sid Justice was disqualified never happened, because if you remember, Papa Shango, a.k.a. now the Godfather, missed his cue to come out into the ring.
He was supposed to interfere as Hogan leg dropped Sid. He was supposed to interfere. He misses the cue. So Sid then has to pull,
Harvey Whippleman comes in,
pull an audible, but Sid kicked out.
Yeah,
kicked out because he didn't want to get his shoulders pinned because this guy showed up late.
Yeah,
and then Harvey Whippleman gets on the apron,
and then now Harvey never lays a hand on Hogan. Hogan picks him up and throws him into Sid,
right?
Who just puts him down. Now they've rung the bell, and I'm looking at it. And even when I watched it back then, wait a minute. How is this a disqualification?
Yeah.
So now you see Papa Shango's coming up because you hear Bobby Heenan. That's Papa Shango, Monsoon.
That's another sick man or sick guy.
Yeah, another sick puppy.
Yeah,
because he goes, they're all insane.
Yeah,
and he's in there, and they've got Hogan tied up, and they're beating him down and beating him down. Now Sid comes out of the ring for the chair, and all of a sudden you hear the music.
Yep, the Ultimate Warrior.
Music of the Ultimate Warrior.
And the pop that he got.
Oh my God, it was better than the match. Like everybody woke up.
I went crazy. I remember watching this on pay-per-view at my friend's house, and I remember all of us just yelling and screaming, "Get him, go get him!" More we couldn't believe it. That was one of the even though they botched the ending of that match.
Yes,
that moment was
kind of saved it.
Yeah, it was still tremendous. Even though I was like, "What the hell does Papa Shango have to do with?"
Exactly. There was no feud.
There was no connection.
Harvey Whippleman doesn't manage him.
He doesn't manage him. There's no connection. Whatever. But that pop, and then I saw Warrior just running, and that was a long way from that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm surprised he wasn't winded when he got to the ring. But you hear Bobby Heenan. That's the Ultimate Warrior, Monsoon,
or the Ultimate Maniac. Did he say the Ultimate Maniac? I think he might have said it.
I think he. And then he's come to help Hulk Hogan, and you see how he just clotheslines Papa Shango completely out of the ring. Sid comes in with the chair, knocks Warrior down. Warrior just gets right back up. Hogan grabs it. Everybody's going nuts. Hogan sees Warrior. He doesn't know what to make of it. The whole place is going batshit crazy. Monsoon announces that Hulk Hogan gets the win by way of disqualification with the interference of Papa Shango. I'm like, okay, if that's what you want to tell everybody.
Right, yeah.
And they're hugging each other and they're doing the pose down and the fireworks go off. I mean, it was a great way, despite the fact that Hogan shouldn't have been the main event, it was a great way to end it, especially with nobody knowing that Warrior was returning.
Right, yeah.
Because they kept this completely secret.
Yeah, none of us knew. None of us knew he was coming back.
There was no dirt sheet on it. I don't even think Hogan knew that he was coming back.
We also didn't have an internet, so that was good that we
good luck trying to keep that off their back.
Exactly.
I mean, it's almost impossible to keep anything secret.
No, it's impossible now.
So, it was a good way to end the card.
Yeah.
With Warrior's return. And then the only link there was Papa Shango's was in a feud with Warrior following that, where he was making him throw up and all this other nonsense.
We'll get into that in the Ultimate Warrior episode. Yeah, we'll get into that.
But now, please tell us, and the card you mentioned is what I wanted to see. Take it away.
Yeah, so we already discussed Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair was the original main event match for the title. They went on the house show circuit. Apparently they didn't do well, but that's been disputed.
Oh, they're full of it because you can watch one on the network.
Yeah,
and I mean the fans were just going nuts.
Yeah, they say that it could have been because Hogan was leaving because of the steroid scandal and everything, and he was trying to go to Hollywood. That Hogan didn't want to put Flair over on the way out because of his ego.
Well, this was at the end of '91, so he was even discussing leaving then.
Well, I'm talking about at that point of the WrestleMania, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about '91. I'm talking about the reason why they changed it in '92 when they had already announced what the main event was.
Yeah.
It had to do with the fact that they already knew Hogan was leaving, and Hogan didn't want to. But a lot of it is speculation too. That Hogan didn't want to.
You can't get a straight story from either one of them, even if you ask.
They don't. No, I've seen shoot interviews, and they
still ask Ric Flair. Ric Flair's like, next question.
Right.
Like, I'm not getting into this.
Oh, I don't really know that. Whatever. So we were also supposed to have Marty Jannetty versus Shawn Michaels, which after the barbershop incident, that was the match that everyone wanted to see. And those two guys can work. Those two guys can wrestle. That would have been at this point a tremendous match. Now, Marty, what happens with Marty? He gets jammed up over something, right?
Well, I'll go into more detail when we do the episode on the Rockers coming up soon. But just to give you the short version, he gets jammed up at a Tampa nightclub, winds up being under house arrest, and the WWE didn't terminate him; they suspended him. So the match that everybody wants, because the barbershop incident was in January. And now we got WrestleMania coming up. This is going to be the Rockers facing each other. We didn't get it, so they substituted him with Tito Santana. We actually didn't get to see this match until Royal Rumble '93.
Yeah, and a year later. The steam was already off the.
Yeah, the fire was already off this rivalry. I mean, some people barely remembered, because by the time the end of '91, '92 came along and Marty Jannetty made his return, it's like people almost have forgotten about it, because now Shawn Michaels is the Intercontinental Champion.
Right.
But, even the Royal Rumble '93 match, I'll get into in detail when we do the Rockers episode.
Yeah, there's a lot behind that.
Yeah. So he gets suspended, so they have to substitute it. So they give him, one in forever losing Tito Santana.
So that's what we got.
Which isn't bad, giving him a veteran like Tito as a substitute, considering what happened.
Yeah. Another match that we could have gotten, we got it years later, was Sid Justice versus The Undertaker. That was supposed to be the match. And Undertaker as a heel, I'm pretty certain Undertaker was still going to be heel. If you remember, they had already set up this match in the fall of '91 when Sid Justice and Undertaker on Superstars of Wrestling, they had that little scuffle where they were choking each other. Jake the Snake Roberts comes out.
Did he come out as a mask?
Yeah, he had a red mask on.
Yeah.
He comes out, interferes in the whole thing. They are already setting up that match.
Because Sid had that wicked stare down with him where he wasn't afraid of him.
Oh, man.
The whole place
exploded. I was so fired up as a kid seeing that. I was like, oh, man, what's going to happen, I know Sid ends up getting hurt. That's why he doesn't compete in the Survivor Series. I think he messes his shoulder up.
Yeah, he did.
But either way, it gets changed through the Hogan Flair thing. The whole thing they put the kibosh on that. That would have been great to see. I think that match would have been better in '92.
They did do it at Rampage the following month, or towards the end of April, because that was right when Sid Justice had his exit. Mm-hmm. Sid Justice did fight The Undertaker, but by this point, it's totally reversed, where Sid is the heel and Undertaker's babyface, and there wasn't as much excitement. Yeah, Sid is on. So they did it, but it was too little, too late. At WrestleMania, the way the momentum was going, I would have definitely loved to see this match.
That could have,
especially the way they built it up on Superstars.
Yeah. Now, another match would have been the big blow-off between Macho Man and Jake the Snake Roberts. That was supposed to happen at WrestleMania 8. That was going to be the culmination of everything that they went through, starting with the SummerSlam thing.
Yeah, because they really only had one pay-per-view match, which was Tuesday in Texas. Mm-hmm. And it didn't go the way they wanted. And Savage had told him in the interview at the end, "I've got so much more for you."
Yeah.
And he barely got a hold of him in the Rumble. They did a few house shows, a couple Saturday main event steel cage matches. But in the end, WrestleMania 8, if the card was going original, this match would have been the one that tore the house down and ended this feud. And if Jake goes off into the sunset like he did anyway, so be it. Savage finally gets over on him and defends the honor of Elizabeth.
Yeah, that would have been great too. Fortunately, we didn't get it, but
it worked out for him anyway, because he gets the WWE title. So
ultimately it did. Another match was the British Bulldog versus the Berserker. I don't think we really lost anything with that one, and that didn't happen because of time constraints. They just didn't have enough time, so it just got axed.
I agree with the Bulldog deserving to be on the card. Matter of fact, even instead of Santana, you could have put the Bulldog in that match with Michaels, but as I'm thinking about it and telling you, it wouldn't have helped with his momentum going into SummerSlam.
No, that was
where he main evented for the Intercontinental Championship. So he actually would have had to come, regardless of his opponent at WrestleMania, he would have to come out on the outcome of winning. to get the momentum to go into London. So, I mean, we didn't lose anything with him not facing the Berserker, but it would have been nice to see him on the card because back then, it's like, okay, he fought through all of 1991. He's in the Royal Rumble, and then all of a sudden, now we don't see you again on a pay-per-view till August. It's like, where have you been that all of a sudden you're deemed the #1 contender? So it would have been nice to see him at WrestleMania 8, but again, if that match would have happened, we wouldn't have lost anything.
Yeah. So
if anything, throw him in there with Owen Hart to face Skinner and Berserker.
Yeah, absolutely. And the final match would have been the Legion of Doom versus Money Inc. for the tag titles. Unfortunately, the Legion of Doom I don't think they got suspended. I believe it was Hawk that got suspended for a failed test of some sort.
Yeah, so they made up an imaginary house show.
Right.
Apparently, nobody knows where this one existed. Where Money Inc. all of a sudden is put together,
right? And
they're the next week on Superstars of Wrestling, you find out that they're the tag team champions,
right? And instead, they bring back the Legion of Doom, but they have them do that interview.
And then by the time they face each other at SummerSlam, in the opening match, mind you, of SummerSlam, the heat is already off this because you're talking about this is something that happened 5 months, 6 months prior.
Yeah, but I mean. What that could have been. I mean, think about that card. That I think. I mean, just off the top of my head, that could have been potentially the most stacked card in the history of WrestleMania.
Because remember, like we've said, they had the most stacked roster in the first half of 1992. If they went with that original card, imagine what that WrestleMania would have been like.
Yep. And you could have. I'm sure you could have found some way to get Warrior in there. You could have done something with him. You could have. He
could have still made a run in
on something
with Savage. Undertaker's match, even Hogan's match. I mean, something they could have brought him back.
Yeah, that could have
made him relevant.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, I think WrestleMania 8 it was fine. You know, it wasn't. Well, I don't think it was. I mean,
they didn't bury anybody.
No. It's another situation where you have Macho Man and Flair. You had 2 great matches. Macho Man and Flair, Piper and Bret Hart are that card.
Exactly.
Are that card. So it's still a good WrestleMania because of those matches.
Yes. Definitely. You know. So I mean I'm happy with what we got. I would have loved to see what never was. And we'll never know the reason for Hogan and Flair because neither individual will tell you the true story and nobody else will come out with it. It's just one of those mythical things that
the great what if.
We'll never know the answer to.
Yeah.
We got the match later on in WCW, but it wasn't nearly as good as what WWE could have done with it.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, all right, man, that's WrestleMania 8. You guys let us know what you think about WrestleMania 8. And, let us know what you think about that potential, that card, what the card could have been.
Would you rather have saw that card or would you rather have seen the one we got?
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. And we'll see you guys soon.
All right, take care, guys.